here by Eren, Lisa, Jessica, Paulina, and Sergiy. In 2008, what started as a financial crisis caused by a variety of different factors turned into a social crisis that we've heard about quite a bit tonight. It affected more than 500 million lives. And it brought a lack of faith in the European Union. And it brought political instability. I'm going to ask Sergiy now to talk about some of this.
All right. We have used system thinking to analyze the major problems of the European Union. So we have found some patterns which actually make some harm to the European Union. On our map, we have a lot of different elements which describe the whole system. So, for instance, so we can see here like education and the austerity measures. That is the main important elements of the systems. Here we can see visibility, and also we can see growth of the SME sector. Here we can see fragility and investments in the system. And the next part would be economic activities and capital flow. So, as you can see, our map has a lot of elements which are interconnected, and actual map is very complex.
Alright, so we started by looking at influential figures. They greatly influence the public opinion by speeches and by actions. And so those speeches and actions are reported by the media. However, of course, the media reports things differently in different countries. So, for example, here it's a Greek newspaper that's representing on their hill with the Nazi sign. And then this is a German newspaper, if I'm not wrong. It says that Cyprus is actually begging for help from the EU. So these kind of headlines and these kind of like news articles actually just contribute to the resentment between countries, which just keeps growing. And that contributes to the instability of Europe as a whole, which decreases its credibility on a international level. So, I mean, yeah, so that further contributes to the instability, and that's a positive reinforcing loop. Then we also looked at the problem of investments. So there's weaker economies, and of course, because of the risk, investors just go and invest in the stronger economies. So those economies get more money, where the other ones get less money. So that just that's successful basically. And so the stronger economies get stronger while the weaker one gets weaker. So we also looked at how local entrepreneurship influences Europe. So it's very important both socially and economically, because for example it provides 2/3 of the private sector jobs. However, there's a big problem because there's massive inequalities between countries as to how big the SME sector is. For example, here in Greece, we see that just as the crisis hit, the SME sector really went down, whereas in Germany it went up. So that's one of the sources of the problems, the big inequalities that also create inequalities in employment between different countries.
So inequalities across countries really weakens the system as a whole. As soon as there's one weak link in the system, Greece for example, it makes it a lot more difficult for all the other countries to come out of this crisis. Inequalities between countries and within the countries themselves increase invisibility. Stereotypes and discriminations really bring this to the forefront through the media. An example of this is saying that the South is lazy compared to the other half. Next up, we have gross national happiness. So this is when we really started thinking about the people. Gross national happiness takes into account the entirety of society through these 9 domains.